Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Power Playbooks. We are very, very excited about this conversation. And as you know, we come together on Wednesdays. We now are actually pivoting in April to the second and fourth Wednesday of every month. And Via, my lovely co-host, our goal is to bring meaningful discussions with experts that are willing to share their playbook on what's working in their business today. Our goal isn't to talk strategy and be pie in the sky. Want you to walk away with tactics that you can employ immediately to improve your business from people that are doing it at a high level and are very generous in sharing those playbooks with us. And with that, it's been a real quiet week in real estate, Javia.
Yeah,
I'm going to turn
nothing's
it to
going on
you
at
to
all. Like, what are
nothing
you
at all,
talking about?
nothing at all that we can't control, but the focuses are, of course, there's so much we can control. And I'm so excited for you to kick off this week's topic with two amazing guests, and I'll let you introduce them.
Yeah, that's right. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you, Sarita. It has been a pretty monumental week in real estate. I am here for it. I'm pumped. I just had a team meeting before this, and I'm like, you guys, this is our moment. Like, we are equipped for this. In chaos and confusion comes massive opportunity, and I am pumped about it. And where I am choosing to focus my energy, as I always do, is what is the next right thing I can do? What's the next thing I can focus on? We are not going to spend this webinar dissecting the settlement in any way. I'll leave that to other people. I'm not really that interested in that. What I'm interested in is how we can take this as a massive opportunity in our businesses and use this to hit our goals and exceed our goals, right? So with that, boy, Monday morning before, I think before 8 or 9 a.m., I was on the phone with Michelle Bailey, who is kind of our informal or formal NAR representative here at Place. I don't know, is that formal, Michelle, or is that more informal?
Probably informal for place.
Her Place, yeah, very formal. She is very involved and in the know. And I asked her to come on this webinar because some of the things she said on that call were brilliant. She was like, Via, you're looking at this halfway there. What we really need to get good at is to show our sellers what the value of a buyer's agent is, to continue to influence them to potentially offer a buyer agent commission. It hadn't even occurred to me. I was so focused on the buyer agent side of it. So I invited Michelle to come on to specifically kind of dive into that. She's got some great scripts and tactics. And then I immediately called Fred Sed. Twice he didn't answer. And then he called me back. Okay, good. I immediately called Fred because Fred leads a buyer training program for forward coaching, is pretty much one of the top script masters in the nation that I could think of. So I called Fred and I said, Fred, if we were going to teach people how to communicate and share the value proposition of a buyer's agent, would you be able to help with that? And he jumped in immediately and said yes. So this is the dream team today. This is the A team that we have for you. And we're going to get super tactical, get ready to take notes. And I hope that I want to charge you guys of something. I want you to listen to this today and watch this today. And I want you to, at some point in the next 24 hours, sit down and write down your list of value propositions that you bring as a buyer's agent, or that agents on your team, if you're a team operator, should be bringing as a buyer's agent. Okay. So I want you guys to watch this. Some of Fred's ideas, some of Michelle's ideas, Sarita's and me. Sarita and I are both in the field actively. We're going to certainly participate today. Some of this may not be your jam. You might listen to one and say, it's not really going to work in my market, but it might prompt an idea for you, right, to riff off of. So I want you to use today as a framework. We're gonna revisit this topic obviously over the next few months, but this is a great way to kick it off. So Fred Sed, I'm going to start with you, okay? And the focusing question I gave both you and Michelle, but I'm going to start with you, Fred. I am a buyer. Okay, I'm on the phone with you, Fred.
Okay.
Fred, here's the deal. I want to talk to you about me moving to Irvine. But I just saw a whole bunch of media, and I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know why I would pay you thousands and thousands of dollars over and above the down payment I'm going to have to bring to buy a house to represent me. So I'm really hesitating here. Like,
Yeah.
what do you bring to the table? What are you going to bring to the table? What value are you going to bring me to make you worth me paying thousands of dollars to?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. And if I was you buying a home, I think about the exact same thing. Here's what I can tell you as of today. Those changes that are proposed to take place, not signed off, but proposed, are going to make it so that in California, in our market, in order for you to actually see a home or work with an agent, you have to formally hire a buyer's agent and their services to be able to actually get into a property. Time will tell if that actually happens. Yet, let me answer your question. At the end of the day, my job isn't to charge you fees and earn money off of you. My job and my fiduciary obligation in California is to put your interest before my own. And that's what you would want. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And if there was a way where I can actually get you a really good price on a house, possibly get you a decent amount of closing cost credit from the seller, we do inspections one day and they require repairs or credits, and I get that negotiated for you as well. And all the numbers make sense financially for you to actually buy this home. That's what you would want. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Perfect. So what I'd like to do to talk about this further, to talk about our services, to talk about our value, is set up either a face-to-face or a Zoom buyer consultation where I go ultimately in detail exactly what myself, my team, my company offer you step by step during the home buying process. And at the end of that conversation, I'm going to ask for an exclusive commitment to represent you thoroughly to the home buying process. And at that moment, you're either going to feel comfortable and confident that I'm the right agent to help you in the buying process, or I'm not the right fit and either one's okay. I just want the opportunity to show you what I can do for you. Is that a fair request, Vija?
Yeah.
Great. I got time later today at 4, tomorrow at 6. Would you prefer Zoom or face-to-face?
I prefer face-to-face. This is a really big decision. And I'll be honest, Fred, I'm not sure if I'm going to use an agent.
No, that's
So
completely fair. And
yeah.
here's the cool part. At the end of the day, when you buy a home, at least in our market, you're either using the buyer's agent or you're having the listing agent represent you. Either way, you're using an agent. Does that make sense?
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, exactly. So when you buy a property, you have to go ahead and have representation as far as the offer agreement goes and the way you prepare it. Could you have an attorney do it? Great. Could you represent yourself? Definitely. But if something goes wrong in that transaction, since you're not a licensed agent and you're representing yourself with no insured representation like myself, and something goes wrong, there could be an issue and liability will fall on you. The nice thing about my services is I'm actually fully insured to cover you, God forbid, in those situations. And if anything happens, I'm at fault or we're at fault, we have the insurance on my end to cover us, God forbid. But in 20 years of doing this and over 1,000 transactions, I've never had a legal dispute or a problem because everything we do is top end. Everything we do is in compliance. And every buyer we've had who's bought a home has always loved our services and been happy with what we've done. And that's what I want to show you in the consultation.
That was fantastic, Fred. I just put on chat. Yes, we will send out a replay and a transcript. That was massive.
So it's one of those things where here's the thing. If I can just be blunt today, which I'm going to be, all right. And if I offend anybody, I apologize in advance.
You blunt, Fred? I love it.
No. Here's the thing. Watch this. It's sales. Nothing has changed. The challenge is now we're permanently forced to basically increase our sales skills. The one thing we have to understand is our game has always been what? Phone-to-phone sales to face-to-face opportunities. I call it V2V, earn the right to get F to F. So I'm not trying to sell them, answer questions, be an attorney, God forbid. Absolutely not in California. It's not my wheelhouse. I just want to get them to the kitchen table. I want to get a Zoom. I want to show my consultation. Then after value, commission's not going to be an objection. In the absence of value, that's when commission's an objection. We have to take what we do with sellers and listing presentations, and literally it's going to be the exact same thing with buyers, literally.
Yeah.
Right?
What I love about Fred, what you're saying, and the reason we started it here, because we're going to move to the consult next, and we're going to get in the weeds on what the more value is. But
Mhm.
we always want to sell to the next step in the process, guys. So what we're starting with is how to get the appointment. What Fred is actually selling is the appointment, right? To be crystal clear, he's not selling himself a little bit because he needs to get the appointment. So,
Yep.
you know, the call objection and the outcome that you're seeking from a, you know, voice to voice, even in an open house to a certain degree, is to get the appointment, right? So that was kind of the first hurdle. Now, Fred, let's move to the actual appointment. Now, where you and I are in a buyer consult, we're either face to face, you know, Zoom or whatever. And I mean, I'm going to ask you the same question. But Fred, that was a great phone call. I'm here. I
Yeah.
think I need you to get more specific. I need to really understand what you're going to do for me
Yeah.
to show me the value, because you know, you're a great guy, you seem great, but you know, at this price, this is tens of thousands of dollars that I could potentially be paying you. And I need to really understand what your
Yeah.
role is going to be and what you're going to offer me.
100%. Number one, let me explain to you one thing. The agreement that I'm going to ask you to sign, which I will in about 15 or 20 minutes, which is exclusive for me and you, and I'll go thoroughly through it. Here's the cool part, Via. You actually don't have to pay that compensation, even if you're the one that actually has to pay it at the end of the day, which I'll go through. You don't actually have to pay it until, number one, we find the home, we write an offer, and we close on it. And here's the cool part. You're a smart woman. You would never put yourself in a legal position to buy a home, send the wire to the escrow company, put your down payment, if you didn't think financially across the board this was the right move for you. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So until that moment, until that given moment, when that were to happen, you're actually not compensating me for anything. I want you to understand that, number one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does. You're right.
Okay, cool. Number two, let's go into the value piece that you talked about. So number one, anybody, including yourself, can go online, look at your favorite search app, look for homes and go knock on a door, maybe go to an open house and see a house. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The difference is going to be is number one, moving forward with these proposed changes, even if you were going to walk into a house or see a house, you got to sign an agreement with some sort of an agent. So that's number one, based off what they're telling us, and that's subject to change, obviously, over the next few months. Number two, the key thing is going to be is our inventory is still extremely low in Southern California. And no matter regulation changes or not, the way we find homes and that doesn't change. It's just how compensation is offered and who pays what, etc. Our inventory is still so low that there's still 5, 10, 15 offers a house. So thinking that you're going to be able to work on your own or have an average agent get an offer accepted, that's going to be an issue. So number one, our negotiation skills are bar none some of the best. Yesterday, we wrote an offer on a property for $1,895,000, super competitive. And because of the relationship I had with the listing agent, because I know 40% of the agents in my market, because I've done this so long and I've carried a fantastic reputation, they know me. I got a counteroffer back for $45,000 less than the asking price because I wrote the offer so clean in my terms and conditions to the point where I give the seller 24 hours to respond. So already 45 grand for that buyer has been given. Number two, in those situations where the home doesn't exist for you via on the open market, on Zillow, Redfin, wherever, 15% of the homes that we bring to our buyers are actually off market. Because my team and I do anywhere from 5,500 to 7,500 cold calls per week in markets looking for sellers for our buyers and looking for listings in general. So there's a good chance if you're exclusively working with me and I know exactly where you want to be, I have a team of 25 people that are going to hammer the phones for you looking for an off-market opportunity. Because I would love to bring you a deal where there's no other competition. But it's a 15% chance. And then beyond that, there's the nuts and bolts of having the vendors in place, the lenders that we use, the closing cost credits that we can give you, and making sure that you understand every aspect of the home buying process. Because you would agree buying a home of this magnitude is a significant financial commitment for you, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. And when you want somebody who knows every aspect of the home buying process, treats your money as if it's their own, and make sure that if they can save you $100, they will, or if they can save you 45 grand off of the sales price, they're going to go ahead and do that.
Yeah.
And just based off our conversation so far, over the phone for 10 minutes, today for 20 so far, just based off that. And I allow you to judge me. Do you feel comfortable and confident that I know what I'm doing?
I think so. How many buyer sales have you had over the last year?
Great question. So overall, myself and my team, we've had over 75 to probably 77 by this morning buyer sales specifically, because our business is 50% buyers and 50% sellers, and we close over 165, 170 transactions in the past 12 months.
Okay.
All walks of buyers too, first-time buyers, investors, flippers, FHA, 400 grand up to 5.5 million.
What happens if, we start working together and I change my mind?
That's a fair request. At the end of the day, if you change your mind, you don't have to use my services. If you have a valid reason why I dropped the ball or my team dropped the ball, you email me and let me know, hey, I no longer want to use your services. Great. We can have a conversation about getting out of business together. At the same time, though, being due diligent and respectful with you, if for some reason I'm doing a good job, but hey, you want to just go to yourself and use somebody else and not use my services, that's going to be an issue, because we're going to put a ton of time and effort to helping you find this home from this second on. We might find something in a month. We might find something in 6 months. And remember, I'm actually not compensated until I find you a home. We successfully pass due diligence and we close, and you'll only do that if the finances make sense. Then at that point, then I'm compensated.
Here's where my question came from. My question came from the concern that I find a home and that particular seller is not offering compensation.
Yeah.
And I might be at a down payment minimum. And
Yeah.
I'm just concerned that we're going to get to a point where I won't be able to afford you and the home potentially that, that I want. What would happen in that situation?
Yeah, I actually have a verbiage that I'm going to show you in my buyer broker agreement that I have in California that I use, and specifically for buyers that have a low down payment that may be in that situation. Number one, I want you to understand my objective is to get the commission that I'm going to get, or my compensation. My intention is initially to get it from the seller, like we've been doing for years. That's my initial intention. Number two, there's a good chance there's still over 95% of properties in our market that are offering a buyer's agent commission from the seller currently at this moment, right? Number three, in the event that you want that house, they refuse to offer a commission, you literally don't have any money to pay there after that. I have in my agreement that at that given moment, we can restructure our agreement, because number one, it's fiduciary obligation to put your interest before my own. I will never steer you away from a home that is not offering anything, because you have to get that house. But if that were to happen, 100%, we can restructure if that specific scenario takes place.
That's fantastic. Great job, Fred. Super, super good, my friend. And since you mentioned seller, Michelle,
I actually don't want to go next.
I know, yes, yours is superb too. But we're gonna shepherd hook you in right now, my friend. So Michelle, we're gonna switch gears a little bit, and Fred and Sarita are going to jump in where they, where they want to add to this, but I'm going to have the same conversation with you. And that is, Michelle, I am talking to you now. I'm about to sell my house. I am thrilled to pay you your commission. We have worked together before. You earn every dollar of it. You're fantastic. But I have to tell you, Michelle, I'm not excited about paying some buyer's agent a commission who's going to negotiate against me, potentially not even represent my best interest. And, I think I need some help with finding the value in doing that. Can you help me understand why you're recommending that we pay a buyer's agent commission? Because I just read in the media that, I don't have to.
Yeah, that's a valid question. And selling your property, it's a collaborative effort, right? My job is to actually get the most amount of eyes on your home, so we have the best chance of getting a great offer or even multiple offers. And since all buyers will now be required to have some type of representation by an agent, if buyers are deciding between two similar properties and one offers compensation and the other does not, which one do you think that they will choose?
Yeah, probably one that offers compensation.
Absolutely. So the way I see it, there are three options. You can offer no buyer agent commission, right? You can offer a high buyer agent commission, and then you can do a hybrid commission split. And I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in each of those. Is that all right?
Yeah, please. I'm
Okay,
interested
awesome.
in this.
So let's say you offer no buyer agent commission, pros and cons of that. You're still going to have me to sell your home and represent your best interest. And our buyer pool is now very limited to the buyers who can actually afford out-of-pocket representation, meaning they're coming to the table and paying for their own agent. If a buyer cannot afford representation and they come straight to me, well, now my total listing commission is going to be raised to whatever that is. And that's going to be to account for the additional work and the additional liability of working with that buyer without having their own representation. There's higher liability. Did you know that in transactions where a buyer does not have representation, that statistically speaking, lawsuits increase after the close of escrow?
No, I didn't know that.
It's kind of scary, yeah. And then current lending guidelines make it really challenging to actually roll the buyer agent commission into seller paid concessions. So option number one, no buyer agent commission. Option two, you have a high buyer agent commission. This is where we're going to get the most amount of buyers because we're attracting all buyers in the market, hopefully, not just the buyers that can actually afford the additional buyer agent commission on top of their closing costs and their down payments. This is the least amount of liability because a buyer has someone actually representing them, just like you have someone representing your best interest. And of course, disclosures are open and honest. And we're most likely to close that transaction with the least amount of emotional unpredictabilities because agents act as a buffer for those road bumps. And then finally, we have the hybrid where you can decide that maybe you want to pay a portion of it, but not the entire buyer agent commission. And we're going to get more buyers than in the previous option, but possibly not all the buyers. We're going to have less liability since they will have their own representation. And we're more likely to close a transaction because there is a professional involved. However, you may receive offers that still ask you to increase the buyer agent commission. So knowing those are your options, which one would you like to choose?
I mean, I don't think I mind them asking me to increase the commission because I can weigh that on its own merits when I get an offer. But you know, I will say, like, you know, we've sold homes with you before and we've had luckily we've had multiple offers before. And there's no question that exceeded both times what we netted on our home. So I see, and that was at offering a high commission and paying it out. Could you run, a net proceeds for me on those 2 different or 3 different scenarios, maybe, so that I could get a clear idea how much I would net just at list price with each one of those?
Absolutely. I can always run a net sheet for you based on kind of what we're talking through. And I will also, just like before, run a net sheet for you on every offer that we get. Now, I did actually do a little bit of research. In this case, it was another agent in my office. And in a very specific MLS area, we actually found that when you have a lower to no buyer agent commission, it actually took 3 times longer to sell that property. And it sold for, I think it was 97% of the list price. So whatever percentage that was, right, you are making up for that in that negotiation.
Yeah, exactly. That's great. I love that example. I wonder if you have the corollary example, Michelle, and then you took the high offers of selling office commission or buyer commission, and they sold for X amount over. I'd love the corollary to that stat, right? Like where, 'cause that's
Great
really,
idea.
really good. Yeah, that's really, really good. Fred, anything you would, that was superb, Michelle, superb. We have people asking for transcripts. We'll send you guys a transcript.
That was really good.
20 otters in here anyway. Fred, anything you would add?
I want to say something that happened to me on Monday, if that's okay. We had a listing appointment we did with one of my partners 2 weeks ago. A condo, right, in a city called Lake Forest. It's about 700 valuation. And we did it, at that point we offered, certain commission, like we'll do it for our listing commission is 2.5%. We'll offer 2% to a buyer's agent. If we double end it would be X, right? Typical situation. He came back Monday morning and hit us up and said, hey, I heard the news. I want to revise my agreement, and we haven't signed it yet. I want to revise my agreement, and I don't want to offer a buyer's agent commission. Straight to the point. I said, fantastic, let's jump on a call. So we jumped on a call Monday afternoon, live scenario, and here's what I did. I'm like, okay, this is getting real. What do I do? Like, just like anybody else, right? I said, okay, this guy's an analytical. He's pretty detailed. He's straight to the point. So I went to the same city of his property. Okay, this happened, and I think we should all be prepared from a listing appointment standpoint to do this. Number one, I pulled all the homes that are active on the market in his city under $1 million, for example. And I made sure I did the version on the MLS that showed the buyer's agent commission being offered on all 17 active listings. I did the same thing for pendings. And then here's the catch that I did. I did the same thing for closed in the past 30 days. Under a certain price, closed, there was about 25 properties. Then I went a step further. It took me about 5 minutes, not a big deal. And I went on the MLS, and out of the 25, I wanted to see how many of those listing agents double-ended the deal. Okay. And how many actually represented by another buyer's agent that came into the transaction. So out of the 25 that closed, 22 of them were represented by the non-listing agent, somebody else. So that was 88% of those closed properties in the past 30 days were represented by a buyer's agent. So I did all of this before I got on that phone call. So when I talked to the gentleman, I said, hey, Casey, here's what we're going to go ahead and do. Let's go over the stats of this, this, and this. And I talked about how many were active, how many were offering commissions, how many were pending, how many were offering commissions, what were being offered. None of them were offering zero. None of them were offering $1. None of them were offering $500. They were all offering 1.5, 1, 2.5, 3, whatever it was. But then when I told them the concept of, hey, 88% buyer's agent brought the deal, what if you had a scenario where 88% of your buyer pool went away because you're not offering a commission? He was like, whoa. So we had that back and forth dialogue. I just used that data to show him the power of potentially offering something versus not having to offer something, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that was a real life example. And I think that helped that conversation on Monday.
Both of you guys, what I love about this that I hadn't thought of before, really, although I've done it over the years, is this is the data driven. We're using data science to, we're not twisting arms. We're offering visibility and transparency and letting our clients decide. Like, for instance, for the last decade or more, that I can remember, when I'm talking with a listing with a seller, I haven't said a total commission number in so long, I wouldn't even know how to say it. I say, well, this is my fee, and let's analyze the market and look at what I think you should pay out. And that has varied over the years. And so I've bifurcated my listing commission and what we offer them for so long. This isn't that big of a shock to my system. I know a lot of people, though, have been used to talking in entirety, giving the whole commission number. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Have you guys entered into this change? Is this a change for you, or have you always done that as well?
I have been doing that over the last couple of years and training my team to do the same. This is my fee. This is our fee. And then talking through, what is it you want to charge the buyer agent or offer, and why is that the case? And I actually have a couple other points, but I'll give Fred the opportunity if he has the answer to that.
Well, mine's the same. I've separated the two, just like you two. That's all I've been doing for years.
Sarita, do you do that too?
Yes, we separate. We separate out exactly what
Okay.
the fees are.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things I wanted to add is I'm listening to both of you, right? Is and Fred, your comment of going from voice to face, right? As listing agents, we're very clear on what our goal is, right? Get the listing, explain what we do, get them to sign. And as buyers agents, whether you used a buyer broker agreement or not, it's very easy to get lazy because so much of the work was inherently done for us. So rethinking this, as I was thinking about this conversation, I want to know specifically what I need to change, right? But I also, for those of us who have teams, we have very specific questions from our teams on like, what do we do differently, right? And so how Via kicked off this call, which is after this call, we need to sit down. Every agent's different. We all have different value propositions. If you're a listing agent, you might be the listing agent that does full service and does staging, right? Or you may be the listing agent in a certain price point in a certain area. As buyers agents, what is our value to the buyer? What are we and what are we not? Understanding what that is the first step. And I think that's something we should do internally, but also with our teams to really brainstorm, what are we going to say? Right. And so this has been so powerful because like you said, Via, I love the data piece on all these questions are valid. Everyone's getting the call. In fact, if we're not getting the call, we should consider making the call to our listings that are in progress saying, look, I know you're probably watching the news. I just want to, let's have a conversation and let me make sure you know your options. And here's why together we're going to come up with the right strategy that works for you. Right. And so I think that not being proactive, it could be dangerous. What are your thoughts on that, Fred and Michelle? Are you waiting for the phone to ring or are you being proactive saying, I know you're watching the news, let's have a conversation, especially those that are in progress?
My state is not as litigious as Fred, so I don't have to be as proactive with those conversations, but I mean, we are having those conversations. I want to just go back a little bit because there are a couple things that I wanted to cover that I'm like trying not to jump out of my seat with. One, Sarita, when you just talked about what do we have to make changes for, this is what I'm most excited about because realtors get, they get shot at and kidnapped and killed, whatever it is, all across the United States. And so safety clearly has not made us go for the dang appointment. And so now we have more incentive, which sounds ridiculous to some degree, to get the dang appointment and get our customers in the office, treat them like a professional because that's how we are, and explain this process. It is a huge opportunity, and I'm excited about that. The other thing is, clearly I'm excited, huh? I could just jump out of my seat.
Well, I love it. I think there's a lot of excitement and I love it. I love it.
Agency. You guys, we've got to understand agency and what it means left and right, inside out, just like our LP Mama scripts or whatever other scripts. I mean, Fred is so smooth with his. We've got to know agency. And when we actually explain what it means to our seller, I doubt they're actually going to want us to sign a buyer rep with a buyer to write an offer on our listings because they're going to understand that now the person they've hired has to kind of be hands off, right? And just the mediator, so to speak. And the same thing goes with our buyers. When they fully understand what that is and we're able to show that, to me, it's like a no-brainer. Signed, we're done. And then the last piece, because I think I saw a comment about something about a lawyer, but I didn't read it all because I'm trying not to pay attention to all the comments. I know,
but close that chat down, Michelle.
I know, I did, I was. But the point I wanted to bring up, and I shared this in one of my posts a bit ago, and it was the dollar per hour, right? If we really look at what our dollar per hour is, and we explain to our clients what that is and where it all goes. Here's the example that I recently shared. I have been working with a buyer for over a year, probably 14, 15 months, answering questions, connecting with lenders, right? We actually did 4 in-person or Zoom consultations because they're first-time home buyers. They have lots of questions. They're really nervous about the process. This is all in the 16 months before we actually sat down and wrote a stinking contract. So now I have 16 months of answering all their questions. Now we're under contract, which is a build job that's going to take another 6 to 7 months. That's 2 years, guys, 2 years before I actually get paid. What's my dollar per hour? And compare that to having just someone write up a contract for you that doesn't know the ins and outs of actual real estate because they don't do it every day.
You know, it's interesting you should say that, Michelle, because just to add to both that and something Fred said earlier, I was telling my team, I got an online lead last week and through a very popular portal. A lot of us get leads. It's one of those where you pay a referral fee at the end, right? One of the really big national ones. And he said, I've chosen you out of this website. I've sent the same email to 3 agents. I'm going to be moving to Seattle next year. We own our house outright in a very expensive area of California. He gave me the address, so I was able to look it up. And it was you guys, 2-page, if I printed it out, a detailed single type, everything they're looking for. Their kid moved here, they want to retire here, whatever. So I read through the whole thing and I said, well, that's amazing that I made the top 3. Would love to have a buyer consult with you. And I said, but I have a question though, that I read thoroughly twice and I didn't see the answer to. And that is, what is your cost basis in your house? Did you do any major remodels? Because I think we should have a capital gains conversation. That is a massive amount of equity, multiple 7 figures in equity. And before we go forward with scheduling a home tour, I'd like to get a little bit more clarity on your overall financial picture and your exit goals. And, there might be some things we can do to turn that house into a rental and have you rent in the interim and do something called a 1031 exchange. I'm not sure, but I just feel like we need to step back a little bit and have that conversation before we even get into neighborhoods. And oh, by the way, I have some thoughts for you on some of the neighborhoods you mentioned. I have some to add. So he emailed back and I'm meeting with him at 4:00 today by Zoom. And he said, no one brought that up. Nobody asked me those questions.
Money.
So, we are all thinking about, okay, we're finding them houses. Nothing wrong with that. Everything we said is good, but the value we also bring is that we are their real estate advisors, just like their financial advisors are financial advisor. He reached out to 3 of presumably the top agents in Seattle. No one said anything to him about that. And that just reminded me of it for some reason when you said that. So I have a question that I've been waiting for you guys to bring up and no one's really kind of directly hit on it because full disclosure, I don't know that I understand this in the new thing. And that is this. As I'm going to start with you, Michelle, and then I'm going to move to you, Fred. So I'm going to ask you for the buy side, Fred, but Michelle, we're talking to, we're in our role play and you're my seller. Michelle, here's what I know. You're great. I'm hiring you to sell this home and, I am happy to give you your listing commission. I just want you to represent any buyer that comes. I really don't want to pay that commission and I want you to write them up. So if any buyer agent comes, that's what I want to have happen.
I did hit on that a little bit.
You did? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all right. So obviously it wasn't clear. So really what's important to understand in that time is if a buyer comes to me and they want me to write it up, it's my understanding I have to sign a representation agreement with that buyer. Now, if I'm representing the seller and the buyer, right? I can't represent one client over another. I can't advocate for one client over another. So I have to then be just the moderator. And if I'm just the moderator, then I'm not doing what I'm best at, which is representing your best interest, which is why we got what we got in the past when we have done deals together.
You did. Thank you. And that was excellent. And that put the dots together for me from the last thing. Thank you. So Fred, from the buyer side, look, Fred, you're great. I just think what I'm going to do, the media has really convinced me. I think what I'm going to do is just go directly to the listing agents, Fred.
No, that's fair. Would you agree that buying a home, and I think we're looking in the million price range, so buying a home for $1 million, is that a legal transaction to you?
Is it illegal? Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you would think so, right? So assuming that's a legal transaction, which it definitely is, I'm glad you said yes. If I was suing you for $1 million or you were suing me for $1 million, would we use the same attorney?
Oh, no.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, I would want my own representation.
Yeah, that's a wise comment. I would too as well. Think about this. There's nothing wrong with going direct to a listing agent. Yet that listing agent was hired by the seller months and months ago. They've had private conversations. That listing agent knows exactly what that seller wants, and that's their ultimate client. You just came along tomorrow morning and said, I want to write an offer. Great. When it comes to real negotiations, requests for repairs, appraisal renegotiations, we're talking 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, $100,000 potentially. How hard is that going to be for that agent to really fairly represent both parties and negotiate? And if anything, if push came to shove, they're probably going to push more on the seller side because that's who they've been in a relationship with, and that's who hired them to begin with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Yeah.
I can see how you going direct to a listing agent. It seems like it would be better. It seems you can save more money. It seems it would be easier, yet it's actually contradictory. And I want you to know in the area you're looking in, about 78 to 80% of homes that are sold have their own buyer representation. They're not what we call double-ended. So let's go ahead and start the relationship on a good foot based off what we've talked about. Hire me as your representative to help you find this property. And I promise you, you're going to be able to save the most amount of money, get the home that you want, and not have any legal trouble thereafter. Because that's exactly your goal in this whole dynamic, right, Vija?
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Fred, but one last question for you, and that
Sure.
is, my attorney over here says he will represent me and write up an offer here, Fred, for a couple $1,000.
Nice.
So
And
I
it is,
just need to understand, I'm not trying to be,
yeah,
I just need to understand
yeah.
truly the specific difference between going and using my attorney Joe over here or using you as a real estate agent.
No, that's fair. How many homes has your attorney Joe sold in the past 12 months?
I don't know. That's a good question. I can
Yeah.
ask.
I would venture to say probably a few, if none, because he's an attorney. Would you agree?
Yeah, he's definitely
Okay,
an
cool.
attorney.
So if you had somebody who owned a car wash and that was their business and they had a real estate license, would you want them to represent you in this legal transaction? They own a car wash and that's their business, but they sell maybe a home or two a year to their uncles and aunts.
No.
Why?
Because I want someone that has a lot of experience and can
Yeah.
negotiate well, find me homes, has good relationships in the marketplace, all the things you said that you do.
Yeah, fair enough. And that's why you're talking to me because that's the person that you're looking for. You're talking to him right now.
Walked right into that one.
It's a dynamic view where you're literally
You did.
you're stepping over dollars to go for dimes and quarters. Because at the end of the day, we're talking about in the event, worst case, you actually had to compensate me, whatever, $15,000, $25,000. If I don't save you 50 or 75,000 on the acquisition cost, on the repairs, on the credits, you wouldn't agree to buy that house anyway. And that's if you had to pay me. There's honest to God an 80% chance, 85% chance my compensation, all or some, is going to come from the seller. That's how it works, and that's how I'm going to go after it. Remember, you don't have to buy the home. You don't have to compensate me if the numbers don't make sense. We've talked about that earlier, and I'm glad you brought it up again.
Well, as a witness to that role play, and Via, you did walk into it, it was beautiful, and the car wash analogy was great. The person who thinks the attorney can replace the agent is still the person who thinks all we do is fill out forms. And so there's the opportunity in terms of value prop, right? If they think their agent just fills out legal paperwork and does nothing else, then sure, an attorney can do that. But that means they're not getting all of the other elements of what we do, the agent relationships, the off markets, the who to inspect, who the actual repair. In Portland, we have crawl space issues where every crawl space is wet, and we know drainage people. I literally could probably be a drainage contractor in terms of how many wet basements I've seen, right? To be able to, again, save $1 by chasing, tripping over pennies to save, whatever the phrase is, right? Tripping over pennies to save dollars. It doesn't work if they think that's all we're doing is filling out forms. And so I think that anytime that we get that question, they're not clear on what we do.
Yeah. And what I was really trying to get at too, thank you, so good, is the overall advice we give them, like, hey, traditionally houses in this sub neighborhood don't, on this side of the road, don't do as well as the other side of the road. Or traditionally, houses down here are going to get the runoff. The houses on the top of the hill are the ones that are not having the drainage problems. The ones down here are. Or just so you know, the dividing line to the school districts is right there. That's that road. I don't know if you're aware of that or not. This isn't listed correctly. Like what they have is the school district is not the right, it's inaccurate. And this is actually the line. And the house over there is worth double than this because of that line. And so there's so many advisory things that we give to our clients as far as buying and asking them questions about exit and what they want out of the asset, that is soft skills. They're just intangible.
I have so the more that I've been thinking about this, just in general, right? The more my mind goes into how much this is going to be similar to our representations of sellers. So when I think about what you just brought up in the analogy, and I didn't get to that yet, I thought about, hey, are there services out there that will charge $500 to put it in the MLS, $1,000 to manage your deal, $3,000 to do the transaction coordination? Yes. But are those the vast majority of sales in the nation? Absolutely not. So there's going to be, I don't care who sees this recording, there's going to be a ton of bottom feeders out there that are going to come out, attorneys, whatever. I'll write your offer for $200. I'll write your offer for $1,000. Like, it's going to be the wild, wild west for a minute, and I'm okay with that. But eventually, it's going to shake out, and it's going to come back to the ones that, like us on this call, the 200 plus of you that have watched this recording in the future or right now live, the ones that are skilled, the ones that are professionals, the ones that know their value, right? And that work on it daily, nonstop, are the ones that will continue to do the consistent aspect of the business. Like, for example, on the other side of my wall in my team office, I have 14 agents over the past 90 minutes that are actively live role-playing our buyer consultation as we speak. Because that's something that we have to do, whether it's our solo or our teams, it's going to be nonstop. Like, the ones that are skilled and professionals are the ones that are going to reap the benefits in a great way, in a really great way.
I agree. And I kind of want to give people permission. Like, if you do the presentation and you've nailed it and you've explained, and they don't want to sign it and they're just questioning everything about it, let them go to someone else. Why? I mean, I have found that when I am in a presentation with someone and they are just, I don't mean not asking questions. I ask questions, like, that's what I'm here for. I want to answer all of them. But when everything is just constantly like this, that's how the entire transaction is going to go. And so I'm not your person. Go find someone else. It's okay.
Yeah. And you have to have a really good business to be able to do that. It's an incentive to have a pipeline, to lead generate, to have a predictable, stable business so that you can say that. It's when you're in scarcity that, that you kind of say, you go against your better judgment. You say, I need to work with that person because I kind of need that next commission, Right. So, yeah. What else? Is there anything that you guys kind of came to this call that you wanted to share that maybe Sarita and I didn't ask you?
I asked a question this morning. My business partner and all of ours is a gentleman named Chris Suarez, And I asked him a question this morning, and I said, Chris, my mind, like when the market shifted in 2022, if we remember that, where all of a sudden rates went up to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, everything stalled. We're like, market's going to crash, right? Everybody's like recession, etc. Our theme internally in our world here that all of us work with was kind of either are we going to be wartime leaders or are we going to be peacetime leaders? And that hit me recently, right? Via Sarita, Michelle. And I asked Chris this morning, I said, Chris, our theme back then was double down on activity, generate way more deals and opportunities because units were down. I said, Chris, should I be thinking the same way myself and should I be sharing that with my partners? Should I be doubling down? He said, yes. But here's what he said in addition to, it's not just about doubling down on activity and going crazy and then burning out. It's about sustaining. So he said, by sustaining and doing the following two things, you will not only double down your activity, generate a ton of opportunities on your pipeline, and not be phased by a reduction in income over the next 6 to 18 months, is you have to understand your daily disciplines and your schedules. And if you can stay consistent in the rhythm by which you operate day in, day out, take care of yourself, hit the phones when you're supposed to, do your lead follow-up, go on your face-to-face, follow a business plan, do it regularly, you're going to be completely fine. So that was actually, it was a paradigm shift because my natural reaction was, dude, let's go crazy, right? Let's double down. And while that's true and that's worked for me in my industry and my business and my team locally, at the same time, the systems and the schedule and the disciplines that we all should have as professionals will be the ultimate factor of whether or not we're phased or we can scale and grow thereafter because of these changes.
Yeah. God, well said. Really, really good stuff today, you guys. Michelle, anything you would add to, the conversation that you kind of came wanting to share that we didn't cover?
No, I don't think so. I just to reiterate, I mean, I'm really excited about the opportunity for all of us that are willing to put in the work. And I think, Fred, you said that great, like sustaining. If we just get through, I mean, the next few months are going to be challenging from the standpoint of pushing through some of those objections. And as we figure out the bumpy road, right, all the execution of things, everyone's going to figure it out at the end of the day. Who will be standing?
Yeah, that's right. Sarita, what about you, my friend?
Yeah, no, I love the energy. Like I think like I just put this in chat. Like I think change can be scary for a lot of people. And the first reaction is, oh no, here we go, right? But you could be afraid of change or you can really truly be excited about the opportunity. This is an opportunity to hone our craft, to master it. We are going to continue to separate ourselves and then we're going to attract people who love that as well. And I know a lot of people, I've been doing this for a couple decades that are like, I don't know if I've got another cycle in me. Like, I don't know if I can do this. But once you sort of dust yourself off, like at the end of the day, it's actually exhilarating to have challenging problems and then brainstorming with industry peers on how to solve them. Like, we're just going to get better as an industry. And, a shakeup is what's needed to just really, really know what the game is and to be committed to it. So I'm so grateful to have you guys' insights. You guys are clearly, your business, you're spot on with your advice. And I know a lot of people that are watching are just like, thank you. This has been fire. Send me the replay. I can't wait. You guys are specific too. You're not, just generally like, oh, try to do a little more of this. You give us very specific role plays and scripts and ideas on what we should be thinking about.
Yeah.
So thank you.
I think my final words are, there's been an overly simplistic mentality and thread of communication in our industry the last few weeks. Just go get listings. Just go get listings. And it's not that simple. We all have to skill up in this, and I'm excited about it. I am here for it. Like I said, I am looking at this as a tremendous opportunity. And so is my team. This is a time for us all to step up as leaders, as we lead teams. If you're an agent, you're leading yourself, you are leading your clients. Be a leader right now, be proactive, get confident internally in these conversations and these objection handlers so that you can show up like Fred. We all want to show up like Fred did today. right? So let's use this as a time to get our battle armor on for a while. It doesn't have to be battle armor forever, but to lean into the skilling up we need to do. It's not quite as simplistic as the bumper stickers would have you say, oh, just get out more listings. That's all you need to do. Yes, and you need to be very aware of what's happening and skilled up in the conversations, right? So with that said, I cannot thank you enough for the last minute poll. Michelle Bailey, Fred Sed, and as always, Sarita, of course, but thank you guys for letting us pivot on this topic today. It was needed. I'm hoping that for all of you watching and listening, that you're going to take my charge to heart. And you're going to go start literally writing down on your iPhone notes or on a napkin, what are my value propositions? What am I bringing to the table?
Yeah.
Start writing a list, dump it down, start developing the scripts. Same with your listings, of course, right? So I hope that you guys use this to leave and create an awesome value proposition. We will see you. Sarita, when will we see them?
April 10th is our next session. So starting April, it's the second and fourth Wednesday of the month. Just put it into your calendar for April 10th and do a recurring meeting invite for yourself. Yep, noon Pacific, 3:00 Eastern. We love having you guys. We're also always open to topics like this that speak to you so that we can continue to deliver value. So reach out to myself or Vija directly if you have topic ideas as well.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Make it a great day.
Thanks.